Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because today on Boss Economics World, we're diving headfirst into the latest economic dumpster fire, a masterclass in government mismanagement, courtesy of the one, the only, Donald J. Trump and his merry band of tariff-touting chaos agents. Oh, and don't worry, we've got the receipts, the data, and the spiciest takes to prove just how this administration's trade policy circus is dragging the global economy, and your wallet, straight into the gutter. So, whether you're a regular Joe who's been watching your grocery bills skyrocket or a finance pro wondering why the markets are throwing a tantrum, this one's for you. Let's get into it. This week, Trump strutted onto the global stage, well, technically, Air Force One, and dropped a bombshell that sent markets into a tailspin faster than you can say, trade war. He teased that his administration might, emphasis on might, strike trade deals with some countries, as early as this week, May 5 to 11, 2025. But, in true Trump fashion, he refused to name names, leaving everyone from Wall Street traders to your average soybean farmer scratching their heads. It's up to me, it's not up to them, he declared, sounding less like a president and more like a reality TV host hyping up the season finale cliffhanger. And oh boy, the cliffhanger is real, because while Trump dangles the carrot of relief from his tariff terror, the global economy is teetering on the edge of a full-blown recession. Coincidence? I think not. Let's start with the obvious. Trump's tariff obsession is the economic equivalent of throwing a Molotov cocktail into a fireworks factory and then acting surprised when the whole thing blows up. For those of you who've been living under a rock, or just trying to avoid the daily dose of political insanity, here's the deal: Trump's been slapping tariffs on anything that moves, with China bearing the brunt of his wrath. We're talking tariffs as high as 145% on Chinese goods, folks. That's not a trade policy, that's a declaration of economic war. And guess what? China's not exactly rolling over. Beijing's retaliated with its own levies, and now we've got a tit-for-tat tariff tango that's got global supply chains in a chokehold. But wait, there's more. Trump's not just picking fights with China. Oh no, he's got a whole hit list. Japan, South Korea, India, and, folks in Europe, his words, not mine, are all in the crosshairs, facing what Trump calls, reciprocal, tariffs. Translation: if you dare to have a trade surplus with the US, Trump's coming for you. And while Vice President J.D. Vance is out there on Fox News promising a shiny new trade deal with India, Japan's chief trade negotiator, Ryosuke Akazawa, is crossing his fingers for a deal by June 2025. June. That's a month away, and we're supposed to believe this administration can pull off a comprehensive trade agreement in less time than it takes to binge-watch a season of The Apprentice. Give me a break. Now, let's peel back the layers of this economic onion, because the deeper you go, the more it stinks. Trump's tariff tantrums aren't just a geopolitical flex, they're a one-way ticket to economic disaster. Don't believe me? Let's look at the data. Last week, the Bureau of Economic Analysis dropped a bombshell: U.S. GDP contracted for the first time in 3 years. That's right, folks, the U.S. economy is shrinking, and it's not hard to see why. When you jack up the cost of imports with tariffs, you don't just hurt the countries you're targeting, you hurt your own consumers and businesses. Higher tariffs mean higher prices for everything from electronics to car parts to the avocados on your toast. And who pays for that? You do. But it gets worse. According to a 2024 report from the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBR, Trump's tariffs have already cost U.S. consumers and businesses over $40 billion annually in higher prices. And that was before the latest round of tariff hikes. Fast forward to 2025, and the Peterson Institute for International Economics estimates that if Trump's current tariff threats are fully implemented, U.S. GDP could shrink by an additional 1.3% by the end of the year. That's not just a recession, that's a full-on economic faceplant. And let's not forget the ripple effects. Global markets are in a tailspin, with the S&P 500 down 8% since Trump's latest tariff threats, according to Bloomberg data from May 2025. The U.S. dollar, which Trump loves to tout as a symbol of American strength, is taking a beating, with a 5% drop against a basket of major currencies in the past month alone, per the Federal Reserve's latest figures. Why? Because investors hate uncertainty, and Trump's "I'll set the deal" approach is the definition of economic chaos. When you've got the leader of the free world treating trade negotiations like a high-stakes poker game, it's no wonder markets are running for the hills. Now, here's where we get to the heart of the matter, and it's the part that should make your blood boil. This economic mess isn't just the result of bad policy, it's the result of deliberate government mismanagement. Trump's administration has turned trade policy into a political weapon, prioritizing short-term optics over long-term stability. Instead of working with allies to address legitimate trade imbalances, Trump's gone full cowboy, slapping tariffs left and right without a coherent strategy. And who's paying the price? American workers, businesses, and consumers. Take the manufacturing sector, for example. Trump loves to claim he's bringing jobs back to America, but the data tells a different story. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, manufacturing employment has stagnated since 2023, with only 12,000 net jobs added in the past 2 years, hardly the manufacturing renaissance Trump promised. Why? Because tariffs don't just make foreign goods more expensive, they make American goods more expensive to produce, too. When you jack up the cost of imported steel and aluminum, as Trump did, you hurt downstream industries like auto manufacturing and construction. A 2025 study by the Economic Policy Institute found that for every job saved in steel production due to tariffs, 3 jobs were lost in other sectors. 3. That's not winning, that's economic self-sabotage. And let's talk about farmers, shall we? American agriculture has been caught in the crossfire of Trump's trade war, with China slashing imports of U.S. soybeans, pork, and other products in retaliation for U.S. tariffs. The American Farm Bureau Federation estimates that U.S. agricultural exports to China have plummeted by 60% since 2018, costing farmers billions. And what's the government solution? Handing out taxpayer-funded bailouts to farmers to the tune of $28 billion, according to the USDA's 2024 report. That's right, folks, your tax dollars are being used to paper over the damage caused by Trump's reckless trade policies. If that's not government mismanagement, I don't know what is. Now, let's zoom in on the elephant in the room, China. Trump's been beating the anti-China drum for years, and while there are legitimate concerns about China's trade practices, intellectual property theft, state subsidies, you name it, Trump's approach has been a masterclass in how not to handle a geopolitical rival. Instead of rallying allies to pressure China, Trump's alienated them with his "America First" rhetoric, leaving the U.S. isolated on the global stage. The European Union, for example, has been reluctant to join the U.S. in confronting China, partly because Trump slapped tariffs on EU goods, too. Great strategy, Don, alienate your friends while trying to fight your enemies. And here's the kicker, despite all the tariff drama, the U.S. trade deficit with China hasn't budged. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the trade deficit with China was $375 billion in 2024, higher than it was when Trump took office in 2017. So, let me get this straight, we've got higher prices, a shrinking economy, and a trade war that's achieved exactly nothing. If this is winning, I'd hate to see what losing looks like. So, what's the way out of this mess? Spoiler alert, it's not more tariffs, and it's definitely not leaving trade policy up to the whims of a single man who thinks setting the deal is a substitute for actual strategy. First, the U.S. needs to rebuild its alliances and work multilaterally to address trade imbalances. That means partnering with the EU, Japan, and others to pressure China on issues like intellectual property theft and market access, rather than going it alone. Second, we need to invest in American competitiveness, think infrastructure, education, and R&D, rather than relying on protectionist gimmicks like tariffs. And third, the government needs to stop treating taxpayers like an ATM to bail out the victims of its own bad policies. Here's the thing, folks, at the end of the day, this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about your money, your job, and your future. When the government mismanages the economy, it's not Trump or his cronies who pay the price, it's you. So, the next time you hear Trump bragging about setting the deal, remember this, the only deal he's setting is a deal to screw over the American people. That's all for today, folks. If you're as fed up with this economic clown show as I am, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. And remember, here at Boss Economics World, we don't just report the news, we call out the nonsense. Until next time, keep your wallets close and your government accountability closer. Peace out.